Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Picture this. A woman is tumbling through darkness. She's spiraling down through endless empty space, clutching something precious in her hand. Above her, a hole of brilliant light, the only world she's ever known, shrinks to nothing. Below, just a vast, black expanse of water stretching to infinity. She falls and falls. But down there in that emptiness, eyes are watching. A flock of geese, bobbing on the waves, spot the column of light, and the tiny figure spiraling toward them. They see her long, black hair streaming behind her, like a comet's tail. And without hesitation, they launch themselves upward, in a thundering wave of wings and honking calls. They weave themselves into a living net beneath her, catching her gently in a warm embrace of feathers. The geese can't hold her forever, though, so they call a meeting. Every creature gathers: loons, otters, beavers, fish. Finally, a great turtle rises from the depths and offers his back as a resting place. She steps gratefully onto the dome of his shell. But she needs more than this. She needs earth. The animals understand immediately. One by one, the strongest divers, the loon, the otter, the sturgeon, plunge into the dark water, searching for mud from the bottom. One by one, they surface empty-handed, or they don't surface at all. Finally, only little muskrat is left, the weakest swimmer of them all. He takes one deep breath and disappears into the depths. Time stretches out. The others fear he's gone for good. Then, tiny bubbles begin rising, followed by the small, lifeless body of the muskrat floating to the surface. He's given everything. But as the animals mourn, they notice something. His tiny paw is clenched tight. When they gently open it, they find a precious handful of mud. The woman takes this gift. She spreads it carefully across the turtle's back. Moved by the sacrifice and generosity of these animals, she begins to sing a song of gratitude. Then she dances. As her feet touch the earth, something miraculous happens. The small patch of mud begins to expand. It grows and grows with every step of her grateful dance, until it becomes an entire continent, an island resting on the turtle's back. This is the story of Sky Woman falling. It's a creation story, yes, but it's also a blueprint for how to live. Today, we're diving into a book that's quietly become a phenomenon, something that feels less like reading and more like remembering something you'd forgotten. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass: Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants, by the remarkable Robin Wall Kimmerer. This isn't just another nature book. It's a book that offers an entirely different way of seeing the world. It sold millions of copies, not through flashy marketing, but through a gentle revolution of readers passing it hand to hand, discovering its healing message one person at a time. The author, Kimmerer, lives in two worlds. She's a botanist, a distinguished professor of environmental science, trained in the rigorous, objective realm of Western science, but she's also an enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, a keeper of ancient stories and wisdom. For most of her life, she felt torn between these worlds, one foot in data, the other in spirit. This book is her answer. It's her act of weaving those two worlds together. What if I told you that by the end of our time together, you'll hold the key to a completely different worldview? One where the world isn't a collection of objects for us to use, but a community of beings for us to relate to. Where gratitude isn't just good manners, but an actual world-shaping force. This book offers a lens to see the abundance that surrounds us, and it teaches us how we can heal our broken relationship with the planet. It all starts with a simple question: what if the earth loved you back? Let's begin that journey and learn to hear what the plants are telling us. Most of us grow up with a creation story about a garden, a tree, and a terrible mistake. A woman tastes forbidden fruit, and for this act of curiosity, she and all humanity get banished. The garden gates slam shut behind her, and she's cast into a wilderness she's told to conquer and subdue. Her relationship with the earth becomes one of exile and punishment. But Sky Woman's story begins differently. She doesn't fall because she did something wrong. She falls toward a new beginning. She isn't banished from a garden. She brings the garden with her, clutched in her hand as seeds from the tree of life. And when she arrives, she isn't met with a hostile wilderness to be conquered, but with a community of beings who rescue her, welcome her, and collaborate with her to create a world for everyone. These two stories, Kimmerer tells us, aren't just ancient myths. They're invisible operating systems running in the background of our modern world. One story tells us we're exiles, passing through a world of resources that exist for our taking. The other tells us we're welcome guests, members of a larger family, with responsibilities to the home that sustains us. Just look around. The land bears the scars of which story we've chosen to live by. Kimmerer saw this disconnect firsthand in her classroom. As an ecology professor, she once surveyed her students, bright, environmentally minded young people who wanted to dedicate their careers to protecting the planet. She asked them to list negative interactions between humans and the environment. Their answers filled pages: pollution, deforestation, climate change, extinction. They knew the story of destruction inside and out. Then she asked them to list positive interactions between people and the land. Their pages were mostly blank. She was stunned. How could it be that after years of education, these students couldn't imagine even one beneficial relationship between our species and the Earth? They'd never been told the story of Sky Woman. They'd never been taught that humans could be a force for good, for healing, for reciprocity. How can we ever build a sustainable world if we can't even picture what it looks like? This is the heart of Braiding Sweetgrass. Kimmerer proposes that the path forward lies in weaving together three strands: the analytical lens of scientific knowledge, the ancient holistic wisdom of indigenous teachings, and the personal, lived stories of plants and people. Let's start with one of the book's most powerful ideas, the gift economy. Imagine walking through a field on a warm June morning. The sun warms your back, and you catch a fragrance that smells like pure summer. You kneel down, and beneath the leaves, you discover a patch of wild strawberries. They're tiny, barely bigger than raindrops, but they're intensely red and sweet. They're a gift. You didn't earn them, you didn't pay for them. They were simply there, waiting to be found. A gift from the earth. Kimmerer says this experience, repeated throughout her childhood, shaped her entire worldview. She learned to see the world not as a marketplace, but as a place of gifts. A gift, she explains, is fundamentally different from a commodity. When you buy something at a store, say, a carton of strawberries, a transaction happens. You pay money, the clerk says thank you, and the relationship ends. The strawberries are now your property. You have no further obligation. But a gift works differently. If a friend gives you a basket of strawberries they picked themselves, a relationship is created. You feel gratitude. You feel an obligation. Not of debt, but of connection. You might share them with others, or you might be inspired to give something back. The gift creates a bond, and its value increases as it circulates. It keeps moving, weaving a web of relationships. In a gift economy, wealth isn't about what you keep, it's about what you give away. In the Western world, we're steeped in the story of the commodity. We're told that everything has a price, that land, water, and even life itself can be owned and sold. This worldview turns the living earth into a collection of natural resources, dead objects to be exploited. But in many indigenous cultures, the earth is seen as a gift. The Potawatomi word for land, Kimmerer tells us, means that which has been given to us. This isn't just poetic, it has profound practical consequences. When you see the world as a gift, you don't just take, you receive, and you feel the responsibility to give back. This is the essence of reciprocity. Kimmerer shares a memory of her family making strawberry shortcake for her father. The kids were sent to the fields to pick wild berries. It was their gift to him. But deep down, they knew the berries weren't theirs to give. The berries belonged to themselves. The real gift came from the fields, and the children's role was simply to be the vessel, to pass that gift along with their time, their care, and their red-stained fingers. Later, as a child, Kimmerer would tend the strawberry patches, weeding around the new runners the plants sent out, helping them find good soil to root in. No one taught her to do this. The strawberries themselves taught her, because they'd given her a gift, a relationship opened between them, a cycle of giving and receiving. This is the heart of reciprocity, a mutually beneficial relationship that sustains both giver and receiver. It's not a transaction, it's a partnership. The idea that taking from the earth could actually be good for it sounds completely backwards to our modern conservation mindset. We're taught that the best way to protect nature is to leave it alone, to fence it off and keep people out. But Kimmerer reveals, through both science and story, that this is a profound misunderstanding. She tells us about sweetgrass itself, or wiingashk in her language. It's a sacred plant, considered the first to grow on earth. Its fragrance a reminder of Sky Woman's loving hands. To her people, it's the hair of Mother Earth, and they braid it to show their care for her. But sweetgrass has a secret. For years, sweetgrass populations were declining in many areas. Some blamed overharvesting by basket makers. Kimmerer, as a scientist, decided to test this. She and her graduate student set up experimental plots. In some, they harvested the sweetgrass using traditional methods, taking only half, leaving a gift of tobacco, being respectful. In others, they followed modern conservation wisdom. They left the plots completely untouched. The results were astonishing. The plots left alone withered. They became choked with their own dead leaves, and their numbers declined. But the harvested plots, they flourished. Picking the sweetgrass, it turned out, stimulated it to grow back stronger and thicker. The grass was healthier when it was in a reciprocal relationship with people. The science confirmed what the elders had always said. If we use a plant respectfully, it will stay with us and flourish. If we ignore it, it will go away. This isn't magic, it's biology. Grasses evolved alongside grazing animals. They're adapted to being disturbed. When they're clipped or picked, it signals them to put energy into new growth. The harvest, done with care, is a form of tending. It's partnership. The people receive the gift of the grass, and in the very act of receiving, they give back the gift of its continued flourishing. This principle of reciprocity is written throughout the natural world if we know how to look. Take the story of the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash. For millennia, indigenous farmers have planted these three seeds together in the same mound. To colonists, these gardens looked messy and chaotic, nothing like the neat, straight rows they knew. But the sisters were engaged in a sophisticated dance of mutual support. The corn grows tall and straight, providing a strong stalk for the bean to climb. The corn is the elder sister, the support. The bean, the middle child, is flexible. It winds its way up the corn stalk, reaching for light, but its gift is hidden underground. beans have a special relationship with bacteria living in their roots. These bacteria take nitrogen, an essential nutrient from the air, and turn it into fertilizer in the soil. The bean feeds her sisters, and the squash, the little sister, spreads her broad, prickly leaves across the ground. She acts as living mulch, shading the soil to keep it moist, and her prickly leaves discourage pests. Together, these three sisters create a system far more productive and resilient than if any were grown alone. They support each other, feed each other, and protect each other. Each expresses her unique gift, but those gifts are magnified in relationship. They teach us a powerful lesson. All flourishing is mutual. This stands in stark contrast to the monoculture fields dominating our modern landscape. Endless rows of a single species, propped up by chemical fertilizers instead of the gift of beans, protected by pesticides instead of the shade of squash. We've replaced a system of reciprocity with a system of extraction. Kimmerer asks us to consider that these plants are our teachers. What if we saw their relationships as a blueprint for our own communities? A world where individuality is cherished, because for the whole to flourish, each of us needs to be strong in who we are and share our unique gifts. This way of seeing requires a fundamental shift in perception, and one of the most powerful tools for that shift is language. In English, we have a very clear line between who and what. A person is a who, a rock, a tree, a lake. These are its. We refer to a family member with pronouns of personhood, like he or she. To call your grandmother an it would be deeply disrespectful. It would reduce her from a living, feeling being to a mere object. Yet this is exactly what our language does to the rest of the living world. The grammar of English, Kimmerer argues, boxes us in. It gives us permission to treat the earth as a collection of objects. If a maple tree is an it, we can take up a chainsaw without a second thought. But if a maple is a her, we might pause. In Potawatomi and many other indigenous languages, this isn't the case. The world isn't divided into he, she, and it. It's divided into animate and inanimate. But the definition of animate is far broader than what we learn in biology class. Sure, humans, animals, and plants are animate, but so are rocks. So are mountains, fire and water. So are songs and stories. The language itself is a mirror for seeing the aliveness that pulses through all things. Kimmerer tells a story of trying to learn her ancestral language. She was struggling with the grammar, which seemed impossibly complex. She came across a word in a dictionary. To be a bay. She was frustrated. A bay is a noun, she thought. A person, place, or thing. Why make it a verb? Then she had an epiphany. A bay is a noun only if you think of water as a dead thing, trapped between shores. But the verb wikwegama, to be a bay, releases the water from bondage. It acknowledges that the living water has, for this moment, chosen to shelter itself between these shores. It could do otherwise. It could become a stream, an ocean, a waterfall. This is the grammar of animacy. It's a language that reminds us, in every sentence, of our kinship with all life. It makes the world a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects. When we speak this way, our relationship with the world changes. We're no longer the lone subjects in a world of objects. We're one person among many, surrounded by family. Think about it. What would change if we referred to a passing moose not as it, but as someone? Someone is in my hat, says a biologist friend of Kimmerer's, shaking out a deer fly. Not something. Someone. It's a small change in a word, but a revolutionary change in worldview. It's a recognition of personhood, of kinship. This understanding of the world as a family of beings leads to a powerful ethical framework for how to interact with it. Kimmerer calls this the honorable harvest. The honorable harvest is a set of principles, a code of conduct that governs the act of taking. It's not a written list of laws, but a living tradition passed down through stories and daily practice. It's a way to resolve the tension between honoring the lives around us and taking them in order to live. The principles are simple, yet profound. First, never take the first one you find. It might be the last, and you want that one to speak well of you to the others. It's an act of restraint, of recognizing that your needs aren't the only ones that matter. Ask permission. Introduce yourself to the beings you wish to harvest. This isn't just formality. It's a way to assess the health of the population, to listen with both your analytical mind and your intuitive heart. Does this patch of leeks have enough to share? Is there a sense of generosity, or a feeling of scarcity? You must respect the answer. Take only what you need, and never more than half. Leave some for others. Leave some for the plants to seed themselves for next year. Leave some for the birds and the bears. Kimmerer tells of early settlers who were baffled that indigenous people would stop harvesting wild rice long before the beds were empty. They say it is for the thunders. One wrote, not understanding that what was left behind was also for the ducks, and for the rice itself, ensuring future abundance. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. If you're digging roots, do it carefully, replanting the soil when you're done. Use everything you take. Waste is disrespect. It dishonors the life that was given. And finally, give a gift in return. Give thanks. Reciprocate. This could be a gift of tobacco, a song, or the act of tending, like weeding the strawberries or scattering seeds. It's this act of giving back that completes the circle. The honorable harvest stands in stark contrast to our modern consumer culture, which feels like a dishonorable harvest. We take what isn't given. We take more than we need. We waste. And we rarely give thanks, let alone a gift in return. We've become what the Anishinaabe people call a Wendigo. The Wendigo is a legendary monster from the North Woods, a human-turned cannibal. Its essence is a hunger that can never be satisfied. The more it eats, the more ravenous it becomes. It's consumed by consumption. It's the embodiment of selfishness, of taking for oneself without any thought for the well-being of the whole. Kimmerer suggests the Wendigo is more than myth. It's a diagnosis of the sickness of our time, a society based on endless growth, on fabricated demand and compulsive overconsumption. This is a Wendigo economy. It's an economy that grants personhood to corporations, but denies it to the living beings of the earth. The footprints of the Wendigo are everywhere, in mountaintop removal for coal, in oil slicks on the ocean, in clear-cut forests, in closets stuffed with clothes we don't need. The Wendigo tricks us into believing that belongings will fill our hunger, when it's belonging we truly crave. So how do we defeat this monster? The old stories tell of heroes who tried to fight the Wendigo with weapons, but it always came back. The Wendigo is most powerful in winter, in the time of scarcity. Its heart is made of ice. But there's one story where the hero, Nanabozo, chooses to hunt the Wendigo not in winter, but in summer, the time of plenty. And this, Kimmerer says, is the medicine. The antidote to the Wendigo isn't scarcity, but abundance. Not an abundance of material possessions, but an abundance of gratitude, of relationships, of gifts. The Wendigo psychosis is fed by the illusion of scarcity. A market economy thrives by creating unmet desires, by telling us we're not enough, that we don't have enough. But a culture of gratitude, a gift economy, cultivates an ethic of fullness. It reminds us we already have everything we need. This brings us to the final essential question. In a world of immigrants, of people displaced from their ancestral lands, how do we find our way back to this sense of belonging? How do we become indigenous to place? Kimmerer reminds us that Skywoman herself was an immigrant. She fell to a new world, leaving everything she knew behind. But through her actions of reciprocity, through the give and take with the land and its beings, she became indigenous. She made a home. To become indigenous to a place, Kimmerer suggests, means to live as if your children's future mattered. It means to care for the land as if our lives, both material and spiritual, depended on it. Because they do. She points to a humble teacher for this lesson, the common plantain, a plant that came to this continent with the first European settlers. Native people called it white man's footstep because it followed them everywhere. It's a foreigner, an immigrant. But it didn't behave like an invader. It didn't poison the soil or crowd out the natives. Its strategy was to be useful. It settled in disturbed places, around dooryards, and along paths. It offered its leaves as powerful medicine for cuts, burns, and insect bites. It made itself a good neighbor. After 500 years, we no longer think of plantain as foreign. It's become naturalized. It's put down roots. It's made a home. This, Kimmerer proposes, is the path for descendants of settlers, not to appropriate indigenous identity, but to follow the teachings of plants like plantain, to unlearn the mindset of the colonist and learn the mindset of a good neighbor, to see the land not as a commodity to exploit, but as a home to care for, to enter into a covenant of reciprocity, to give our own gifts back to the earth, which has given us so much. This is the braiding Kimmerer calls for, to weave together our scientific knowledge with a worldview of gratitude and relationship, to create new stories, new ceremonies, and new ways of living that honor the gift of the earth. We're all called to this work. We're all called to be people of corn, people transformed by our relationship with the living world, people who understand that all flourishing is mutual. As we come to the end of our journey through Braiding Sweetgrass, it's easy to feel a mixture of awe and perhaps a little sadness. The wisdom in this book is so profound, so simple, and yet so far from the world most of us inhabit. It feels like we've been given a glimpse of a more beautiful, more meaningful way to live, but the path back to it seems long and overgrown. What strikes me most about Robin Wall Kimmerer's work is its deep and gentle optimism. This isn't a book that scolds or shames. It doesn't wallow in despair over what's been lost. Instead, it's a powerful and loving invitation. It invites us to remember something that, deep down, we already know, that we're part of a living world, a world that's a gift, not a resource. The most powerful lesson for me is this idea of reciprocity. In our modern society, we often think of our relationship with nature in two ways. Either we're takers, consuming resources, or we're protectors, setting nature aside to be untouched. What Kimmerer offers is a third way, the role of the partner. The idea that we can be a beneficial presence on Earth, that our attention and care can actually help the world flourish, is truly revolutionary. It moves us from a place of guilt and helplessness to a place of agency and responsibility. She shows us that science and spirit aren't enemies. They're two different languages, telling the same story about the beauty and complexity of the world. Science can tell us how sweetgrass grows stronger when harvested. Indigenous wisdom can tell us why. We need both. We need the head and the heart. So how do we begin to live this? How do we apply these teachings in a world of supermarkets, smartphones, and concrete? It can feel overwhelming. But Kimmerer reminds us that the journey begins with small acts of attention and gratitude. Here are a few simple ways to start putting down your own roots. First, practice the art of paying attention. Next time you step outside, try to notice one thing you've never noticed before. The way light hits a particular leaf, the sound of an unfamiliar bird, the texture of a piece of bark. Attention, Kimmerer says, is the beginning of reciprocity. It's how we start to see the world not as a backdrop, but as a community of living beings. Second, learn a name, just one. Learn the name of the tree outside your window, or the bird that sings in the morning. Naming is a way of building relationship. It's hard to love what you don't know. When you can call a being by its name, it stops being an it and starts becoming a who. And third, give something back. This doesn't have to be grand. It can be as simple as planting a pot of herbs on your windowsill and caring for it. It can be putting out a dish of water for birds on a hot day. It can be picking up a piece of trash on your walk. These small acts of care are the currency of reciprocity. They're how we begin to mend the broken circle. Braiding Sweetgrass is more than a book. It's a ceremony. It's a prayer. It's a call to remember our place in the family of life. It teaches us that the world doesn't have to be a lonely place. We're surrounded by teachers, by relatives, by beings who are constantly offering us their gifts. Our work and our joy is to learn how to receive those gifts with gratitude and to offer our own in return. We've explored the core of Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer today. We've journeyed through its biggest ideas, but I want to be clear. A summary is just a map, not the territory itself. The true power of this book is in the way Kimmerer's voice guides you through these stories. The way a specific sentence can land in your heart and change how you see a simple patch of grass. This summary is a doorway. If you felt a pull toward the ideas we've discussed, the gift economy, the grammar of animacy, the honorable harvest, I wholeheartedly encourage you to step through it. Reading this book isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a profound experience, one that has the power to reawaken a sense of wonder and belonging you may have forgotten you had. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if this journey has brought you some value today, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right path and ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another world-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's continue to learn and grow together.